Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's another beautiful day out there. I always like that when I start my trainings and it's nice out. Let me go ahead and turn these closed captions off. Starting it right at noon. Put your company in. All right, we're rocking and rolling. Hey, I wanted to give a quick tip for success for those showing up early and on time, because I really appreciate when you do and when you engage in LinkedIn. It allows allows my tools to be able to push it out further to LinkedIn. Anyways, my tip for success is around the whiteboard that you see me use. The reason I use this whiteboard, and I use it all the time, and I got two of those rolling whiteboards. I use the front and the back. And the reason I use it is because when you have a board like that, or even just a piece of paper that has no lines, your mind is not constrained by the lines, right? And so when I have the whiteboard, I can go all over and I can just have these far-fetched ideas. And then I begin to refine them down, compared to if I was going to use some lined paper, then right away my mind is trying to make my thoughts fit the height of the line and the width of the paper kind of thing. So it's just an idea or a tip for you on how you can have more success in your brainstorming, your thinking, whether it's preparing for a meeting, delivering a solution, or frankly, anything you're doing, planning a vacation. Let your mind wander, then bring it in. Don't start it off as a constraint. All right, that's just a quick tip for success for those showing up early and on time. I appreciate that you do. Let's go ahead and get started in today's training, Path to Your First $1 Million in Federal Revenue. I've been teaching government contracting a long time, and I want to keep coming back. This is 2025, 2026. FY 2026 is really close to us. And I just wanted to come back and really talk about your first $1 million in here. And a lot of what I'm about to say can be used for a company doing 10 or $20 million, because it's really just process. But I'm trying to refine today's message into that. If you're not at $1 million, how do you begin to go that direction? Something I want you to just keep in mind, all of us, whether you own the company, whether you're working in there, but especially if you're a business owner, right, is that for-profit businesses exist to make money. A nonprofit business exists to do its mission, right? I don't even want to say do good things, because it could change on what the purpose is. But a nonprofit's its focus is not to make profit in the company. A nonprofit does make money to survive, things like that, but that's not its primary goal. But our for-profit business, it's to make money, and that's totally okay. And so the reason I say this is because if the point of a business is to make money, then you want to make money as fast as you can. When you make money as fast as you can, you build a strong business. You're able to hire really good people. You're able to begin to start doing things throughout the community and the world of altruistic things that you have in mind. But those take money and time. So here I want to focus on trying to get you to your revenue as fast as possible. I don't want you to make the same mistakes I made, where I struggled to learn certain things for years. And many of us in the industry, we spend so many years kind of making the same mistakes. I'd rather you come up with all new creative mistakes that we've never heard of before than to make the same mistake me and tens of thousands of other small business owners and small business personnel have made. And so we're going to be diving into my process for avoiding that. And if you follow my process that I'm going to talk about today, you're going to get to that $1 million revenue much, much faster than you ever would without following this process. It is not a secret. It's not a hack. It's nothing special. It is a process. And you'll see me talk about this and again. And in fact, let's just start in here how I want to break up today's training and the three steps I'm going to teach you today. The way I'm going to break it up is first, I want you to understand step one here is being known for one clear, focused offer, what I'm calling CFO for the fun of it today. So you need to have one CFO, clear, focused offer. And I'll talk about how do you do it and what is that? What does it mean? Second thing I'm going to talk about is once you have that, then you need to niche down. And today I want to introduce you to this idea that when I say niche down, I don't want it to be conceptual. It's like, oh, what do I do here or there? I want to tighten it even more. And in niching down, I'll explain what I mean by that if you're newer to this, but I want you to niche down to one labor category. And this is what I meant by for companies that are more experienced, even you can really think about this. And then step three that I'm going to talk to you about is building strategic relationships with small businesses. That is the path to your first million. It is not other ways. And so I'll talk about it and I'll walk you through the steps and I'll show you how to go find those people and how to build that relationship, all within 30 minutes, right? So we're going to be rocking and rolling. Make sure you introduce yourself in the chat to other people. This is your community. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business government contractor after I got out of the Army. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. And this is what I want for you. This is what I'm going to be teaching today, a repeatable, predictable way of getting to $1 million as a government contractor. If that's for you, if that's what you're looking for, then definitely hang on for the fun ride. Chris Moffitt, I usually don't look at the chat, but I was just using you as an example somewhere. And I think like on my training prep or something. And for everybody, Chris Moffitt's in the chat. She and I have never met each other, but I use her name all the time where I sit there and say, all things training, go talk to Chris Moffitt, right? She's really makes herself memorable in this community. And so definitely connect with her, but also learn from her about how somehow she sunk what her company does deep into my memory, that if I'm talking to somebody else, they go, hey, you know anybody who does training? Well, shoot, Chris Moffitt does training. That's what you want to be doing. And I'll talk about that today's training, frankly, when I say clear focused offer, right? Hey, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to my newsletter. It's the Government Contracting Success Newsletter. It's the largest government contracting newsletter in the federal market. It's because I provide you specific guidance on all things federal sales related. I try not to be too policy focused. I'm more about how can you get in the door and talk to your buyers. If you're on YouTube or other places, make sure you follow me on LinkedIn, right? If you're putting out a ton of content, then you connect with me. But otherwise, following is good enough so that you don't ever miss anything I put out. Speaking of that, don't miss tomorrow's training. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about why federal buyers won't meet with you, right? You reach out to them on phone, on email, et cetera, and they're just not getting back to you, or they say no. I'm going to give you guidance on how you can start getting a lot more yeses and a lot more of those meetings. So we're going to go through pretty fast in the next 23 minutes talking about 3 steps that I want to share with you today for driving towards your first $1 million. If you're already making $1 million or more, $10 million or more, the steps in here will definitely be good guidance for you. One of the main lines that I've heard my entire career, right? It never originated with me. It really hasn't originated in the last 20 or 50 years. It's been around forever in sales, is that people buy from those they know, like, and trust. For today's training, I said people buy from those they know. If your buyers don't know you, then they're not going to be able to buy from you ever. Like if they don't know you or know of your company, then how could they possibly buy from you? And this is a really important thing to just pay attention to, is that this is why I say there's no secrets or hacks to success in government contracting. One of the most important steps you can take is to get known. And I want you to be known. And in today's training, I really want you to understand that it's important to be known for one clear, focused offer. Again, going back to Chris Moffitt's company, and this is the idea. She could sell other things, but she's known in my head and maybe a bunch of other people's heads as all things training. And so if I have any question related to training, I'm going to go to her, right? So she's got one clear, focused offer that's in there that kind of gets her known, certainly to me and many of the people who are in our community. And so you want to be known by the buyers. This is why you want to have one clear, focused offer. I put here, why not 2? And I get this question a lot, right? I do cloud, I do data, I do cyber. Well, unless you're Booz Allen and you're a $1 billion company, then you're just kind of dabbling. Even if you're a $10 or $20 million company, you're still kind of dabbling. I mean, how much are you really doing when you think about the federal government's spend on cyber is 10 or $20 billion. And if you're a $10 million company doing 2 or 3 things, then you're really not focused on one thing like cyber. You're diluting yourself. And when you dilute yourself, you're not able to win as big a contracts. And so the other reason, though, on why you want one, and I'm just going to use Chris Moffitt's thing about all things training today, you want to use 1, not 2, so that people remember you. If you say I do too many different things, then they're not going to be able to remember. And so you want people to remember you. So have one offer that makes it really easy for them to start to get to know you. The second thing is, when I say have one clear focus offer, you got to ask yourself, well, what does clear mean? In this particular case, I just mean it needs to be so simple. I do all things training. That's fairly simple. A 3rd grader could understand this. third grade or fifth grade, right? That kind of level of language is what you want in your offer. You don't want us to have to be two things. You don't want us to have to be confused by it, right? And if you're a little bit more technical, let's say you're an engineer in a certain unique spaceship type thing, well, that's okay. You want your language to be clear to your audience so they'll get it. Maybe I won't. But the idea is your offer is so clear that anybody can understand the basics of it. And I'm trying to look through here to see if I see, like, there's leak specialist, concrete leak specialist, right? That's a pretty simple, little bigger words for me, apparently, because I'm still in second grade and working on my word pronunciation. But concrete leak specialist. I'm like, you mean you take care of leaks that are in concrete? I got it, right? That simple of a statement means it's a clear offer. It's easy for us to understand. And then the third thing is when I say clear, focused offer, right? There's one clear, focused offer. Focused is tightening it down. So I would say to Chris Moffitt, perhaps if she says we do all things training, she might focus that even a little bit more to say, well, what kind of training, right? Do you do, is it web-based training? Is it healthcare training? So you could kind of focus that even more. For me, in my last company, I did IT services, so information technology services, but that was too big. And so I came down and I said, well, we do Microsoft IT services, still too big. We're like, well, we do software development, still too big. And then we came down farther and we said, well, we do Microsoft SharePoint development, right? That was very niched down or focused down in a way that allowed us to drive into a particular place. And so this is what I want you to remember from this slide on having one clear, focused offer. It just needs to be one, so it's easy for people to remember you. It needs to be clear, so it's easy for them. They don't feel bad, like looking at it and going, I don't understand. I feel a little dumb, right? And then the last one is it really needs to be focused in, and I'll talk more about it. Sometimes we call that niching, but I'm going to use niching on the next slide for a different reason. By the way, tell me what your thing is, right? Tell me in the chat, and some of you might have already done this, but what is your one clear, focused offer? If you could say it in a way that is just a few simple, easy words for us, like all things training. I see Chris is going to maybe shrink that down a little bit, but still, that's pretty easy and pretty clear to understand. Put yours in so all of us can see as I move on to the next slide. So step one is having that one clear, focused offer. Step two, and this is something unique that I'm teaching today, is that I want you to take your unique offer, your focused offer, and bring that down even tighter. There's a line out there that says the riches are in the niches, right? And what is a niche anyways, or what does niche mean? And really, niching down just means you're niching down to an area of specialty. You're not selling everything. You're not going in and saying, for example, we do construction. Well, that's everything. Niche it down. Well, we do hospital construction. Keep bringing it down. Do you do flooring? Do you do painting? Do you do elevators? If you're under $1 million in particular, shrink that thing down. This is a big mistake we sometimes make as a new business, is that we think if we don't say we do multiple things, we'll miss out on multiple opportunities. And it's actually the reverse. If we say that we do multiple things, then people will look at us first off and go, no, you can't do that. You're too small. How can you do everything? And the second thing is they say, well, when we need everything, we'll come back to you. But if you sit there and say, hey, we're the best elevator service company around, it's like it'll start sinking in their heads, your buyers' heads, or whoever, the same way Chris Moffitt has sunk into my head, right? And so what does a niche mean? It just means you're able to clearly say, I sell this, not everything. I want to talk to you about labor categories, though, because if you niche down more, if you don't know what a labor category is, just really quickly, inside of any customer, and you're going to bill them time and material. So time and material means I'm going to bill them for my time, an hourly rate. Well, usually you have a title. So for me, it was SharePoint administrator, let's say. And that SharePoint administrator at $125 an hour. That was my labor category and my rate. And so that's a really important thing for you to understand is what are your labor categories? You need to research your labor categories if you don't know it. But when you pick one single labor category and go, you know what, I sell this. And this, I'm telling you, this is the hardest thing for people to do is to focus down. It's like, well, if I pick this, what about these things? What about them? You're committing yourself to going and getting $1 million on this labor category. And when I shrink it down, I say I do SharePoint, my labor category is SharePoint administrator, then I'm locked down. When I start talking to people, I don't say I do all things SharePoint, for example. I go in and I say, hey, we're SharePoint administrators. That's what we do. This is our rate. And SharePoint administrators are the ones who administer SharePoint on the user side, right? And there's engineers who do it on the non-user side. Anyways, so you have one labor category. I'm going to tell you how to do that in a second. But if you have that, then you've got proof to yourself and to your target customers or teammates that, hey, we are very specialized in risk management framework, or in painting interior walls, or roofing, or cybersecurity areas or something, right? You're taking that one labor category and using it as a way to reaffirm your focus. The one exception I put here is, and this is totally okay, when I say one labor category, I mean like SharePoint for the services I did. And so I use an example here of SharePoint architect, engineer, and administrator. And just so you know, like the architect is the one who kind of sets it up and designs what it's going to look like. The architect and the engineer build it. And then the administrator is the one who kind of runs it for the users afterwards. This is a very loose way of saying what it is. Well, all three of those are related to just Microsoft SharePoint in there, very tight niched down. So if there's three labor categories that totally relate, that's okay. Another example could be elevator services. There might be an elevator technician, but you could also have an elevator installer, an elevator maintenance person. Those are all still related to elevator service. That's my niche down area. And the point is, you're trying to really niche down to that labor category. And all of that is going to be the next bullet and the next slide that I'll talk about. So before I move on to what do you do once you have a labor category? How's that going to get you to $1 million, right? Is I want to just talk about how to find your labor category. Let me switch my screen over really quick. So there's three tools you can use that are out here. This first one is called, well, I don't know what the full name is, but it's Calc is what I call it. And so I'm sure that acronym is spread out, but it doesn't matter to me. In here, I can come in. Remember I said SharePoint as an example. I can come in and type SharePoint, and I can see these different labor categories that are in here if you're tracking on that. Let me just hit search and see if it displays a little better. So right down here, right, I can see different labor categories like SharePoint developer, SharePoint analyst, engineer. And what I would do is come in here and look at these, and you can click on some of these links to find out more information. But what I'm looking for is, especially if I'm newer, right? If I don't know my space as well, I'm looking for what is the labor category that relates mostly to what I do. So for example, when I did SharePoint, yes, we did SharePoint development, but really we did SharePoint administration. And so I would look for any kind of things that related. And that would probably be SharePoint engineering or something as an example. You want to do that same thing. So this tool is just, you can just go into buy.gsa.gov/pricing. If somebody's faster than me, go ahead and put that in the chat. buy.gsa.gov/pricing. That's one tool. I love that tool. By the way, where it's getting these labor categories are from the next place I'm going to show you, but basically from all of the companies that have GSA contract vehicles or mass. All their prices and labor categories are in here together as a way to look at it. And that takes me to the second place. And I'm just using Booz Allen as an example. You can go to this place called GSA eLibrary.gsa.gov, or you can go to gsaadvantage.gov, which is where I tend to go. But either way, I can come in here and I can see labor categories. So here I'm looking, I pulled $1 billion company and I'm like, I'm okay with that, right? But if I come down here and let me just, let me pull it like this, and let me do a quick search on, let's say, $. That's a lot, isn't that? Actually, let me do something different. Project manager. See if I can find that. Come on. Well, the page is going to take a little while to load, so I'm going to back away because it's 150 pages. Okay, here you go. So if I come in here, so this is still the categories on mass, but basically you can come in here and read this stuff. Here they're talking about the work, but if I look through this document, I can find labor categories. That's what I want you to do. I'm not here to train you so much on that, so let me come back here really quick. But you can go to GSA Calc tool, and thank you for those of you who put it in there, Marco. You can go to GSA Advantage. Just type in, go to Google and type in, Booz Allen GSA pricing, and it'll come up, right? And then when you got it, you can look through there, and Booz Allen probably has like 50 labor categories. And so that's a great way. And then the third way that I would find labor categories when I'm trying to niche down and pick one is I'm tending to use IT services. And so you want to find the contract vehicle that your services are on, but maybe you haven't won. So an example could be Seaport Next Gen, which is a big one, or 8A Stars 3. All these contract vehicles that are service related, they have pricing labor categories within the request for proposal of the solicitation documents. You can just go to sam.gov, find a contract vehicle that fits what you're doing, or go to Google and just search it. And when you find that contract vehicle, you can go in and find the best labor category for you. So this is really important, because as you're niching down and you're trying to go to the $1 million, the next slide, I'm going to talk about how. But before you do the how, you need the labor category in place, and you need to know what your clear focused offer is. This is thirsty business. Okay. Oh, hey, really quick, I just want to thank our sponsors of the Daily Lives, Graham Inc., who does staffing services. If you're looking to ramp up with good people, and they do American Sign Language services. Thanks a lot to Graham. You guys have been around a long time. I really appreciate you. KZO Consulting does pricing and contract compliance support. It was a great video I did with Kate, who runs that company, where she was talking about pre and post award risks that you want to track on. So go check that out. Call Plan AI. It's a new SaaS offering that I launched recently. It's in the early stages, so I'm only accepting early users who are willing to kind of go through a couple of little bumps as I build it out. But it's launched. Check it out at callplan.ai. And then LinkedIn for GovCon. If you're looking to be visible to federal buyers and to find federal buyers and engage with them, LinkedIn for GovCon will help you engage with those federal buyers on LinkedIn. It also happens to be run by my sister, Cecilia, who's been given to the GovCon community since 2018. So go support these sponsors. At the very least, say thanks to the sponsors. Okay, so got a couple minutes left, and let me talk about how you're going to go in this path. I'm saying, how can you get to $1 million? Have a clear focus offer, a really good understanding of what you're selling. I sell Microsoft SharePoint services. And then the second thing is niche that down even further by picking a labor category, and that one labor category that you're driving to that's got a good hourly rate, it's got a good description of the work. And the reason is because now this third slide where I talk about build strategic relationships with small businesses. Do not prime contract. Do not knock on the door of prime contract, or federal agencies, federal buyers. Could you have good conversations? Sure. But I call that constructive procrastination. If you're not making $1 million, but you're going to a lot of government type events or government people meetings, then you're just spinning your wheels. And we all have done that. And I'm trying to prevent you from doing that, from wasting the time. I'm not trying to prevent you from going there. Have at it if you want to. But I'm saying that is not the path to your first $1 million. The second bullet that I have here is large prime contractors. That also is not your path. Going to Booz Allen or Leidos, those people, some of them are nice and they'll meet with you, but they're not going to work with you. It is a very, very rare case that they will work with you. For example, I had a customer who started working pretty quickly after they started their company with Larges, but it was because they came out of 25 years in the Navy and started their business and went right back basically into the same place. And the Larges valued their relationship with 25 years in the Navy doing that thing. That's an unusual situation. Let's call that an exception. But for most of us, that doesn't happen. So stay away from federal agencies, priming, right? Stay away from large contractors and go right to small businesses. Small businesses are the very best path to $1 million. And when I say small businesses, what I mean is subcontracting with a small business that has the work that you could support. I always teach that there's 3 ways you could make money for your house, right? You could get a W-2 job where you go work for that small business as an employee. You could 1099 as a consultant, or you could have your company 1099 and in government contracting, that basically is subcontracting. And so if you build relationships with small businesses, you're going to be able to get to $1 million. The reason I say building these relationships and working with small businesses as you're on your way to $1 million is because working with another company like a small business prime contractor, 50 or 80% of the heavy lifting is off your plate. the interaction with the government, the following the bulk of the rules that are in there. They're having to figure out how to build the government, some of the clearances and things like that. Writing the final proposal. Like if you don't have a lot of experience in there, but you team up with a company that's good at it, then you're just contributing to that and trying to help them win. But a lot of that heavy lifting's off. And so you can go through the learning process with them and focus on building your revenue first. Then you begin to grow as a government contractor. So that's why you want to build relationships. And the second thing I have here is, how many relationships do you need? This depends completely on what your hourly rate is. If you go in and pick a labor category and you see the hourly labor category rate is $100 an hour, then I put here, if you just do simple math, you know how many relationships you need and you know where to go. So let me just use this really quick. If I say I want to get to $1 million, that's what we're talking about today, right? How do I get to my first million? Easy math, and I know this is not exact math, but easy math is you take your hourly rate, your labor category's hourly rate. In this case, I said $100 an hour. You could have a $50 hour rate, or you could have a $200 hour rate, and you just do your math. But you take the hourly rate, you double it, and now you've got the annual revenue. So $100 an hour employee or billable person, or what we call FTEs, full-time equivalent employee. If you take a $100 an hour person and they're billable full-time, they're basically going to bring in $200,000 a year. That means if I need $1 million, I need 5 FTEs, right? 5 FTEs billing out at $200,000 a year is going to bring $1 million in revenue. Personally, I tend to round it up another FTE just to make sure I'm not missing anything. But that kind of math, right? You really want to pay attention to that. And so what I teach is get 8 strategic relationships, not 100 relationships, not a ton of them. You're looking for companies that are doing, let's say, $1 to $10 million prime contracting. Really, even $1 to $5 million is a really good sweet spot because they're still hungry, they're still growing, and there's room for you. And if you build 8 strategic relationships with 8 companies that relate to what your labor category and clear focus offer are, then you're going to find room in there. You're going to find opportunities. You can work with them to move forward, right? You can identify things, you can work with them. But if you have 8 and you're looking to get to $1 million and you're $100 an hour, then you can see the math, right? And the same thing is, if you build a strategic relationship with somebody, what I say is you should always be able to expect 2 FTEs at least coming out of that every year. If you have 8 strategic relationships, and I got a whole separate set of training on how to build those, et cetera. If you have 8 and you can get 2 FTEs from them, right? You have to work hard at this. I'm not saying they're just going to hand it to you. But if you can do that, then you have 16 potential FTEs coming at you in a year, right? And if that's the case, then at your hourly rate, what can you expect that will be in revenue? Certainly more than $1 million. The thing about government contracting, frankly, everything in sales and life is about showing up and just doing enough of the right thing. And this is just trying to define the right thing as niching down with a clear focused offer. And I think I actually say this in the next slide. Niche down with a clear focused offer. So write that clear focused offer, make it easy for me to understand, and then pick up your best labor category, or LCAT. Make sure you have that, and then go out and build those 8 strategic relationships. Remember the criteria I gave you, and then go watch all my other training. You can see a lot more in there. If that makes sense, just go ahead and put CFO into the chat. I love seeing something like that. That's an unusual thing. But CFO, let me know you understand clear focused offer is where it all starts. Don't forget about tomorrow's training. If you struggle to sit there and get federal buyers to accept your request for a meeting, I'm going to be driving into that tomorrow, and I'll talk about it. I mentioned that I started Call Plan AI. It's designed to help people win more contracts through the relationships they're building, to be able to get in and have those good meetings that turn to relationships and go on. If that's something you're interested in, check out Call Plan AI right now, because it's brand new. It just launched. I got a couple of little hiccups, right? I'm giving 90% off for life for anybody who joins. And that'll be long enough until I actually get this thing really humming. But I'd love to have you in there. Get your feedback in particular. Go, hey, how do you like it? And by the way, if you're in there already in Call Plan AI, we've got a meeting at 3:00. Join us, because we do daily office hours on that. For all of us, as we move through the day, just remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. I will see you in the next training.